Welcome to Marriage Unmasked. Today we get to talk about 5 things that women need from their husbands. Last week we talked about the 5 things that men need from their wives, and now it is time. Women are excited. So every day I sit with women and they love God, right? They love their husbands, and still they feel alone in their marriage. They feel invisible. And so we want to talk about what are the things that women really need. And I'm sure if you are a wife, you've probably tried to express some of these things to your husband already. You may not have known exactly what it was that you were needing. For a long time, I really needed Adam to step into his masculinity, and I didn't really know what it was that I needed. And so it led to a lot of frustration, a lot of resentment as it built up for years, because I just didn't even know how to name it, how to, talk about this topic. So hopefully we give you some clarity and also some ways to bring this up in a healthy way. And this isn't about blame. It's really about bringing that clarity and going for connection again.
Yeah, and guys, some of these things can get under our skin as guys because, and with social media and with a lot of these other things, we hear some of these things a lot, and it can be overwhelming. Women always need something, and we as guys sometimes feel a certain way about that, maybe irritated, maybe worked up. Notice that when that happens again in the podcast, just like Cara mentioned last week for the ladies. Notice when you are getting annoyed by something that we're talking about, and name that and work through it, because that's probably something that needs healing and needs strength inside of you. Really get curious about, okay, let me be open to this. Let me hear this. Let me understand this from her perspective.
And, everyone's needs matter. It's not just one over the other. I get a lot of angry comments from men on Instagram, It's always, we're concerned about both husbands and wives' needs, and they all matter. And that's why we're doing this episode, because we already did the one for men. So the number one need for women, which I think is so interesting because it was brought up for men as well. It is that emotional safety, to feel emotionally safe, to feel held. I think that's another way to talk about it. And what that emotional safety is really is, it's this place where a wife can share her heart, right? She can share it openly and vulnerably without fear that she's going to be dismissed, right? That she's going to be invalidated, that she's going to be mocked even. And I have talked to so many wives that are hurting, and they're feeling those exact things, right? Their emotions or their thoughts are being minimized, dismissed, invalidated. We experienced that in our own marriage. I experienced that as well. And I think it was because Adam just didn't know what to do with my emotions. And so he didn't want to deal with them at all. And so what he did then was invalidate, right? And that was really painful. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to share with you anymore. So we want to create this safety. So I asked on social media too. I asked, like, what are your number one needs, women? And this one came up a lot. And also wanting him to be emotionally vulnerable as well and available, because we as women, we want to have those deeper conversations. We want to talk about those things that are going on under the surface. And sometimes if a man is closed off from his own heart, or he is closed off to her, right, then he doesn't share that. And it's important to have that deeper connection. And women, we want that too. It's important, if you're a man listening, to remember your wife, she's not too emotional. She's not overreacting. She doesn't need you to fix her. She doesn't need you to fix her emotions. Like, stop being emotional. I think that's something that you've said before.
Yeah, you're too much. I probably said you're too much, or I've said calm down.
No, you've said that you have been trying to do what you can to stop my emotions, or to fix my emotions.
To fix your emotions, and that it's a knee-jerk reaction for guys, because sometimes those emotions, they might threaten us in a certain sense as men, because we're not as familiar in that emotional world, or we have wounds there in our own emotional makeup that we haven't healed and haven't dealt with. And so when she gets emotional, it can trigger us. It can make us feel a certain way. And if we make it about us, if we make it about ourselves, that is not going to be holding space for her. That's not going to be a safe place for her, because now we've just turned her emotions into something about us.
Yeah.
And that's going to create an unhealthy dynamic. It's going to hurt her deeply, because she'll feel invalidated, like we're dismissing or closed off to her emotions. And so that is why inner healing for men is so important, because we need to heal those things in order to really be strong in who we are and hold space for her in her emotional reality.
Yeah, and I mean, just a reminder, like women and our emotions, they're not something that needs to be fixed.
It's
This
true.
is a beautiful part of a woman, that she has this deep, emotional part of her heart. She feels things deeply and she expresses them, and that actually can be such a beautiful thing and can draw a man toward her if he is secure in himself and he is emotionally intelligent and aware and can provide that safety.
And it actually awakens him more to his inner world and his emotions. When he's open to her emotions, it can awaken that other side of him. And that's one of the beautiful things about that dynamic in a relationship, is she can sort of get him in touch with some of those emotional sides of himself that he has closed off for a long time.
And that's the thing about the heart and about emotions and things like that, is God cares about this part of us. I don't know where it came from, but it does seem that we lost, or we didn't, I wasn't ever taught really how much God really does. He cares about your heart. He values your heart. And it says in the Bible, everything you do flows from your heart. And so this is a beautiful thing we can give to ourselves, right? This is a beautiful gift that we can give to ourselves, to notice what's going on in our heart, to value it, to offer compassion and love and validation, right? Your heart matters, and it matters to God. He says that, and he pursues you. He pursues your heart. He loves it when you're open and vulnerable with him, and he will always give you that safety. He will always be that place where you can be completely open and know that there's nothing that he doesn't want to hear about. He wants every part of you. And he designed intimacy to start in the heart, right? That intimacy with him, and then that intimacy in our relationships here, right? In marriage. And so it's a beautiful thing that I think we don't talk about enough in the church. We focus more on behavior and doing, but really God wants your heart, and he cares about your heart. And that's where the real connection happens. When we invite God into that, that's when we enjoy this beautiful intimacy with him. And that's when we really understand who we are, because we know how loved we are. We feel held by him. We feel cared for by him. And that fills us, and then we're able to overflow that to others. So it's such an important thing for both men and women to really value their hearts.
Yeah, and God gives us his promises not just for our head, but also for our heart. He gives us his promises that he's with us always, not just so that we know he's around, but also so that we can be aware that he is really present with us, and that can ground us. And that can make us strong in a moment, or it can help us to feel safe when we're feeling unsafe, because we know he's with us. So all of his promises are really meant not just for our mind and our logic, but also for our heart, and also for healing us inside. He is all about us as whole people, not just our intellect, our behavior. He's all about all of us. And so that is important to know. And that comes into play as we as men want to mimic that really for our wives. We want to be all about her heart. We want to be able to hold space for her emotions. And to do that, we are present with her. I think a lot of times guys overcomplicate this holding space for your wife. I think we overcomplicate it because, again, our knee-jerk reaction is to go to fix. It's to go to control. It's to go to our wounds, like I kind of mentioned before, and we flip into that so quickly. When we slow down first, instead of like, maybe we have an initial reaction to her emotions, but if we slow things down, if we take a breath, take a beat before we respond, before we react, and we actually choose a response, and we recognize that all we really need to do is be present. We don't need to necessarily do anything. We need to be there for her. And that means checking in with her. That means actually very aware of what she's going through, present in her emotional reality, and letting her know that. Like, that's validation, really. That's like, I see what you're going through. I'm here for you while you're going through this emotional experience. Many times we need to lead with the heart. I think when we hold space, we actually need to lead with the mind a little bit more. We have to be a little bit more in control of our emotions. And our emotions are still at play too as men. So we need to almost step out of the emotional reality a little bit, our own emotional reality, and really get curious with what she's experiencing in her heart in that moment. so that we can then think through how we can just hold space for that. Like, I care about her. I want to have compassion for her in this moment. It's not about me. Those are things we need to remind ourselves when she's having a big emotion and we're starting to have a reaction towards that. Remind ourselves that it's not about me. I can show compassion here, and God loves her heart. God loves her emotions. I can love her heart. I can love her emotions in this too. And then just be there, just be present with her, not interrupting her, not trying to fix her, not trying to control her, just allowing that space to be. And sometimes we want to jump in to defend ourselves. I know that was a big thing for me. Like, I would make it about me and then start to defend myself. And this is what I think and all that. And there's a time and place for that, but that's after those emotions have run their course. That's after she has felt safe in those emotions. Now we can have a conversation about some of the details and the perspectives and the facts of the situation. And I think that's just important for us as men to always remember. Just to hold space is just to be present and in tune with what she's going through.
And I think that's so helpful to remember that for men, like, it's not about you.
Yeah.
Like, so for instance, before we started recording the podcast today, we record pretty quickly right when he gets home from work because we have a lot going on. And so before he got home, I had some kid drama. My normal quiet time was not quiet because of the kids and nailing into the holes in the wall.
Just a regular day in the life.
Yeah, like a lot of, yes. And so I was kind of in a mood, and I started kind of snapping at him, and then I started to kind of share about what I was feeling. And he really didn't need to do anything. He just listened, and that was really enough for me. Like, what has happened in the past for us is he would start invalidating. He would start making it about him. He would turn the conversation from me sharing my emotions to him and how this is affecting him.
Yeah.
And so I always appreciate when he can now just hold that space, and not like I just want to like unload and be critical or turn it on him or, nothing like that, but just to share what's going on for me and to just maybe even vent a little bit, not necessarily vent about him, but venting about other things that might be going on.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. And wives, if you're hurt in this area, right, and you're like, I just don't even really want to communicate about it anymore because he doesn't do this. He doesn't hold space. I encourage you to find those wounds and heal them for ourselves, because when you do that, when you find that safety with God, you come from this full place. That's when you can open your heart up again. That's when you can communicate gently. I'm not trying to tell you, like, just do it. Nope. I want you to actually go in deeper and attend to your heart and heal those things. And then you're able to just naturally, right? It naturally comes out that you're open. You can share these things again. You can be vulnerable again, and you can communicate in a gentle way. And that's so important to do that deeper work. We're not trying to tell you, men or women, do this, do that, do this.
Right.
We want this to be an outpouring of the healing that you've done and attending to your heart that you've done. Mm-hmm. Okay, we spent a lot of time on number one.
It's an important one.
It is.
Yes.
Let's move on. So number two is women need consistent pursuit. Consistent pursuit. And that came up again with wives that I was asking on social media, that consistency in a lot of areas, that's a big need. But here we're talking consistent pursuit. So we as women want to be wanted. We want to feel cherished. We want to feel loved. And that pursuit shows that you value us, that we're worth something to you, right? That we matter. It reminds me of Jesus. He was telling those parables about like the lost coin or the lost sheep. The shepherd, like, willing to leave the sheep to go find the one, right? Or the woman, I think it was a woman looking for the lost coin. I think it was a woman.
Yes.
And she's willing to, like, turn her house upside down to find this one coin. But that's this pursuit, right? Shows the value of that coin, the value of that sheep. And we want to be pursued, and it shows us that you value us, and that matters.
Yeah, that's an honor for us to be able to help her to feel special, because when you love your wife, you want her to feel special. You want her to feel cherished. You want her to feel loved and all these things. Pursuit is how you do that. We watch shows all the time, and they get in an argument, and then the two leave, and the wife or the girlfriend or whatever is always hoping, that the guy will pursue her. Like we just watched a show that happened again. And it's such a common theme because women need pursuit. Like in this particular show, she said, don't come after me. Mm-hmm. Like, don't follow me. It will make it even harder for you to follow me. So just don't. And yet he did pursue. And she was hoping, you could see she was always looking behind, always hoping that he would still come anyway. So sometimes, guys, you have to read between the lines when she's saying things that are like, I don't want connection with you. I don't want that. Deep down, she really does. And sometimes you might call it a test, or you might call it a like a wondering, like she's wondering, will he pursue me? Will he make an effort to show that I'm special in this moment? And so husbands, go after that, because that is precious for your wife to experience that. It opens huge doors. It opens her heart. She softens a lot when she knows that she's pursued by you.
Yeah.
So when you get married, marriage is not it. Like, you didn't just get the prize now, got the prize, and I don't have to do anything else anymore. Marriage is just the start of a lifelong pursuit of your wife's heart. So initiate dates. Make that part of your routine. Make that part of your schedule. Plan that out. I'm gonna plan dates to take my wife out and make her feel special. Regular times to communicate. Marriage check-ins every week. We have a marriage check-in resource in our Healing Your Marriage course to go through every week so that you can check in with each other and communicate. And when a husband initiates that shows pursuit of his wife and her heart and the relationship. And then be the one who closes the distance when you guys have an argument or a conflict. You, as the man, have this beautiful opportunity to not be passive, not check out, but to actually check into the relationship, actually take the first steps towards a reconciliation and move towards her. That shows how special she is to you when you do that.
And I've heard from so many wives, and they're that are hurting deeply because they feel like the man they're married to now is not the man that they were engaged to or dating. That he now, because they're married, he has changed and he has stopped pursuing. He's not doing the things he said he was going to do, right? I know there's a lot of sensitivity around spiritual leadership specifically. The guy is pursuing God and he's, leading before, and then they get married and that's gone, or maybe it never was there. And she really craves that spiritual leadership as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about leadership in a little bit, that we don't want something massive to change just because you got married. I mean,
Right.
this is the most important relationship in your life besides your relationship with God and yourself. And so we want to really give it that attention. That's so important to show the value there. Okay, let's go to need number 3, which is shared partnership. And this is so important because if your wife is exhausted and she feels like she now needs to ask you to help out, and that's another thing on her to-do list, to get you to do the things to help out, that is going to shut down affection, intimacy. Like, that's going to shut down her heart a little bit. She's not going to be as attracted to someone she feels like she has to mother, right? And so you might think, if she wants help, she can just ask for it. But this is not about helping out. This is about taking ownership and saying, this is my house. This is my family. I'm going to lead through this, right? I'm going to carry this weight too. This isn't all on her. I'm not just going to wait for her to ask me for help. I'm actually going to be looking for how I can help carry that weight. And that is so important. A lot of times wives feel like, I'm drowning, I'm drowning. And he thinks it's just fine. He thinks everything's fine. And that leads to a lot of resentment. I know when Adam and I were in some of the darkest times in our marriage, that's how I was feeling. I'm working as a personal trainer, so I'm doing a physically exhausting job as well, leading fitness classes and all of that. And then I have 4 little kiddos. I'm homeschooling when one of my kids goes to school. I'm juggling all these different things, breastfeeding still, cooking and taking care of the house and all that. And he would go to work and then come home and like, okay, if you need my help, then ask for it.
Yeah, I mean, that is very hard. I can't just be another responsibility for her to take on when she's already overwhelmed in all those areas. Yeah, so a husband really needs to take on that leadership. Like, I think too often we make this 2 separate domains of this household domain and this work domain as men. We tend to compartmentalize a bit, and we can check out of the home domain and leave our wife in charge there, and then come home and sort of be like that, be like another kid in the house. Well, I'm helping out, doing those kind of things. And what's not helpful about that is, this is, like Cara mentioned earlier too, this is our family. All of it is our responsibility. All of it is part of the beautiful thing that God has given us. She may have more responsibilities at home if the husband's working outside of the home and she's not. That may be part of the reality, but it is really for a man to take ownership of the entirety of the situation, both at home and at work, and to lead it and to take off that emotional and that mental burden from her and do some practical leading, whether it's the kids, whether it's the chores, whether it's making decisions. You don't spell wife by spelling it CEO. She's not the CEO. She's not in charge of everything. You need to take the leadership and kind of oversight of all things, and then also, practically speaking, make decisions and solve problems for your family and for your household as a man. And if this isn't happening, if you're not doing this, it's a good thing for you to kind of take stock and ask, why is that? Why am I deferring and defaulting to my wife and her decisions and her leadership in this area? And that is something for us as men to really take stock of and take ownership and understand. This is really being a man. Work on your masculinity so that you can step into this more fully. This is built into our hearts as men. This is how God designed us. He designed us to be the head of the household, not to do everything, but to be responsible and intentional and take on the burden of the house, which includes the mental and emotional load, and solve and fix some of the issues going on in the household.
So the next need number 4, is affection without agenda. There's a difference between affection, just because you love her, you cherish her, you want to be close with her, and pressure, right? This like, I'm touching you, but it's because I want something else, right? That kind of affection that isn't sexually driven, it helps build trust and it helps soften her nervous system and it restores that connection between you two. So it's so important.
You don't want a transactional relationship where I touch you and now that means that I want physical intimacy. That is sad to have a transactional reaction. You wouldn't want that from her either. You wouldn't want to just have her do things in order to get something from you. You know, be aware of that. And all that takes is just being intentional about physical touch, non-sexual physical touch, just holding her hand as a regular practice. You sit close to her as a regular practice. You give her hugs. You hold on to her when she's emotional. These kind of things that have nothing to do with the bedroom are very powerful ways of building that connection over time. And if that's just part of the regular rhythm of your life with her, then she's not gonna feel pressure when you give that affection.
And for us wives, it can be really helpful to communicate what feels good to you. Because I know for me, there's been seasons where I prefer more of like snuggling or hugging rather than kissing all the time, right? Or whatever. Like let him know what feels good to you too. And then our last need number 5, is leadership and masculinity rooted in gentleness. Is that leadership we've kind of touched on a little bit, already, but rooted in gentleness. This is not control. This is not I make all the decisions. This is not dominating. It's not superiority. That's not what this is. It is this, initiative, right? Taking initiative spiritually, relationally, being kind, but strong. It's protecting, it's providing, it's being confident.
Yeah.
This is what is behind so much attraction. When I have wives come to me and they're like, I don't even want my husband anymore. Like, I'm not interested in him at all. Like, yeah, I could just be without him. Like, they've lost complete attraction. A lot of times, this is the root right here. It's the imbalance of like masculinity and femininity. They perhaps, as women, are more in their masculinity, and their husbands have stepped out of masculinity and they're not leading, they're not taking initiative, and it causes attraction to just disappear. And so it's so important to have this consistent masculinity in the marriage.
Yeah, and guys, we don't need to completely overcomplicate this either. You're a man. You're already a man. All it takes, it is getting back to the root of who you are. What is it that makes you feel like a man? You know when you're not feeling like a man. You can figure out when you are in your true masculine energy and when you're outside of it. When do you feel strong and confident and capable? When are you operating out of fear or an insecure energy? You can know that. And so it's just a matter of getting back into your identity as a man, who you are and how God made you, and being confident and authentic in the man that God made you to be. There's some practice to getting back into your masculine frame again.
And for wives, it's like a cycle. It can be a very unhealthy cycle. So if you are in more masculine energy, right, and you're not softening and relaxing into your femininity, that can lead to him feeling like there's no room for him to be in his masculinity, right? And so it's important for us to also, as women, to create space for him to lead and affirm his growth, affirm his strength. That's really helpful in just getting out of that cycle and getting into a new healthier cycle where he's in his masculine strength and you're relaxing into your femininity and enjoying that. So, recap the top 5 things that women need from their husbands. The first one is to feel emotionally safe, right? To feel held that way. The second one is that consistent pursuit. The third one is shared partnership so that she's not carrying all the weight herself. And the fourth one is affection without agenda. And then the last one is that leadership and masculine strength that's rooted in gentleness.
Yeah, and these are just important things for us as guys to be aware of and to really go after fulfilling those needs for our wives. Cara and I, we have resources that are really helpful for you to get to the root, to get into your identity and to reset this masculine and feminine dynamic in your relationship. Cara, inside of her Restored membership for wives, she has a course that she's rolling out called Femininity Restored, where she really gets into how to relax into your femininity again. And in my Refined Men's membership, I also have a course that I'm rolling out called Refined Within, where we as men go back into our identity and who we are as men and heal some of the things that are causing us to show up in ways that are stepping outside of that masculine energy in our relationship and in our life.
And it may sound really easy, like, oh, just, step into your femininity or into your masculinity, but actually there's so much deep stuff throughout your whole life that has affected who you are and how you're showing up today. And so we help you walk through and identify those things and really help you heal, and it is transformative for your whole life. So you don't have to walk through this alone. We don't want you to feel like this is maybe too far gone. You're not too far gone. There's so much hope for healing and connection again in your marriage, and for these needs to get met, whether you're the husband, with the last week's needs, or you're the wife with this week's needs. You can get these needs met and enjoy this beautiful connection together. If you're a husband, right, we'd love to hear what would you add to the list from last week? What did we miss? Or if you're a wife, what would you have added to the list this week? Or what was ringing most true for you? We'd love to hear your feedback.
Absolutely.
We hope that you enjoyed this episode. We hope that it brought up some really helpful things, brought some clarity, and we will see you next week.